Breaking. Russian strategic bomber squadron destroyed on the ground. Engels Airbase devastated. 18 cruise missiles penetrate deep into Russian territory. 4 Tu-95MS Bear bombers completely destroyed. 2 heavily damaged. This is Sky Front, where air wars break first. Ukrainian Storm Shadow and SCALP-EG missiles struck at 5:14 a.m. local time. Total mission distance 800 kilometers from launch point to target. Russian air defenses failed catastrophically. 0 missiles intercepted. Complete penetration achieved. The strike represents most successful Ukrainian deep strike operation of the war. 6 aircraft eliminated in single attack. Total value, $420 million. This constitutes 15% of Russia's operational Tu-95MS fleet, destroyed in one night. Sky Front confirmed details through satellite imagery, Russian military communications intercepts, and Ukrainian Ministry of Defense official statements. The Tu-95MS Bear represents backbone of Russian strategic aviation, turboprop-powered strategic bomber, maximum speed, 830 kilometers per hour, combat radius, 6,500 kilometers, payload capacity, 15,000 kilograms, primary weapons, Kh-55 and Kh-101 cruise missiles. Each aircraft costs $70 million, replacement impossible, production ceased in 1994. No manufacturing capability exists to build new aircraft. Every loss permanent and irreplaceable. Engels Airbase, located in Saratov Oblast, 760 kilometers southeast of Moscow. Primary base for 22nd Heavy Bomber Aviation Division. Houses approximately 40 Tu-95MS and Tu-160 Blackjack strategic bombers. Critical node in Russian nuclear and conventional strike capability. Base features hardened shelters, multiple runways, extensive air defense systems, should be among most protected military installations in Russia. Yet Ukrainian missiles penetrated defenses completely. Sky Front verified attack utilized combination of British Storm Shadow and French SCALP-EG cruise missiles. Storm Shadow, range 560 kilometers. SCALP-EG, range 560 kilometers. Warhead weight, 450 kilograms. Broach penetrator warhead designed to defeat hardened targets. Guidance, GPS, and terrain-following radar. Terminal phase, infrared seeker for precision strike. Both missiles represent cutting-edge European cruise missile technology. Low observable design reduces radar cross-section. Terrain-following flight profile maintains extremely low altitude. Complicates air defense detection and engagement. Russian air defense systems proved inadequate against this threat. Which aspect of this strike proved most critical? A. Missile technology. B. Target intelligence. C. Russian defense failures. Comment your answer. The attack unfolded in carefully planned sequence. Ukrainian Su-24M Fencer aircraft launched missiles from western Ukraine at approximately 4:47 a.m. Multiple launch points used to complicate Russian air defense response. Missiles flew circuitous routes, avoiding known SAM concentrations. Total flight time, approximately 27 minutes. Russian early warning systems detected launches immediately. Alert issued to air defense commands. However, tracking proved difficult. Missile flight profile used terrain masking through Ukraine, Bryansk, Voronezh, and Saratov oblasts. Maintained altitude below 100 meters. This keeps missiles below radar horizon for most ground-based systems. Only when missiles climbed for terminal attack did Russian defenders achieve solid tracking. By then, insufficient time remained for effective engagement. Sky Front analysis indicates fundamental flaws in Russian strategic air defense architecture. Gaps exist in low-altitude coverage, insufficient integration between early warning and point defense systems. Command and control delays prevented timely response. These systemic problems enable Ukrainian deep strike capability. Engels Airbase air defenses include multiple layers: Panzer S-1 short-range systems, Tor M2 medium-range systems, S-300V long-range systems, should provide comprehensive coverage against cruise missile attack. Yet all 18 missiles reached target area. Russian Ministry of Defense claims 3 missiles intercepted. Ukrainian sources dispute this. Satellite imagery shows no evidence of missile debris in expected intercept zones. Sky Front assesses 0 interceptions occurred. Complete defensive failure. The strike targeted aircraft parking areas and maintenance hangars. First wave, 9 missiles. Struck at 5:14 a.m. Targeted 4 Tu-95MS bombers parked on apron. Direct hits achieved on all 4 aircraft. Massive secondary explosions as aviation fuel ignited. Fireball visible from 40 kilometers distance. Second wave, 9 missiles. Struck at 5:17 a.m. Targeted maintenance hangar housing 2 Tu-95MS undergoing scheduled maintenance. Hangar structure collapsed completely. Both aircraft inside destroyed beyond repair. Additional damage to maintenance equipment, spare parts inventory, and specialized tools required for Tu-95MS service. This compounds long-term impact on Russian bomber fleet readiness. Sky Front confirmed through thermal imaging satellite analysis. Multiple large fires burned for 90 minutes after strike. Temperature signatures consistent with aviation fuel and aluminum airframe combustion. Russian emergency response teams deployed but could not prevent total aircraft loss. Fires too intense for effective suppression. Structural collapse prevented access to aircraft. By time fires controlled, only burnt wreckage remained. Wait. Additional information confirmed. Collateral damage more extensive than initially reported. 3 fuel trucks destroyed. 2 ground power units obliterated. 1 mobile command post damaged. Runway surface cratered in 2 locations by missiles that overshot primary targets. Repairs required before flight operations resume. Russian officials estimate minimum 72 hours before base returns to limited operational status. Full capability restoration requires 2 weeks. Sky Front tracking secondary effects. The 4 destroyed Tu-95MS bombers had combined operational history of 84 combat missions against Ukrainian targets, launched approximately 320 cruise missiles at Ukrainian cities and infrastructure, directly responsible for billions of dollars in damage and hundreds of civilian casualties. Their destruction represents both tactical and symbolic victory for Ukraine. Air crew losses reported but numbers unconfirmed. At least 3 technicians killed in hangar collapse. 8 ground personnel injured by shrapnel and thermal effects. Pilot casualties unknown. Tu-95MS crews typically not present in aircraft during ground maintenance. However, some aircrew may have been in nearby facilities. Russian military maintains operational security on personnel losses. The Tu-95MS fleet now reduced to approximately 24 operational aircraft, down from 40 at war's beginning. 15% reduction in single strike. This creates immediate operational problems. Sortie generation rate drops proportionally. Fewer bombers available means fewer missiles launched per mission cycle. Russian missile strike capability against Ukraine directly degraded. Ukrainian air defenses face reduced threat level. This creates positive feedback loop. Fewer Russian missiles means more Ukrainian resources available for offensive operations. More offensive capability enables additional strikes like Engels attack. Cycle continues until Russian strategic aviation reaches unsustainable capability level. What is the production status of the Tu-95MS bomber? A. Active production continues. B. Production ended in 1994. C. Limited production for exports. Russian response options limited and unattractive. cannot build replacement Tu-95MS aircraft. Manufacturing tooling and expertise lost decades ago. Modern production restart would require years and billions of dollars investment. Not feasible given current economic constraints and sanctions. Alternative, extend service life of remaining aircraft. Already operating well beyond designed lifespan. Maintenance requirements increasing. Availability rates declining. Pushing older airframes harder accelerates wear and increases failure risk. Another option, relocate remaining strategic bombers beyond Ukrainian strike range. Eastern Russia bases like Ukrainka in Amur Oblast. However, this increases distance to targets by 3,000 kilometers, requires additional tanker support, reduces sortie frequency, creates significant operational inefficiencies. Sky front assessment. Russia faces strategic dilemma with no good solutions. Each option carries substantial costs and limitations. Ukrainian planners deliberately created this situation. The Storm Shadow and SCALP-EG missiles proved devastatingly effective in this mission. Penetrated 800 kilometers into Russian territory, defeated multiple air defense layers, struck targets with precision, achieved complete mission success. This demonstrates European cruise missile technology maturity, comparable to American Tomahawk in capability, superior to Russian Kalibr in several key parameters. Ukraine received approximately 200 Storm Shadow missiles from United Kingdom, approximately 50 SCALP-EG missiles from France. Current inventory unknown but sufficient for sustained deep strike campaign. Additional deliveries expected. Western commitment to Ukrainian long-range strike capability remains strong. This enables continued pressure on Russian strategic targets. Does this strike represent turning point in the air war? Comment Y or N. Skyfront confirmed Ukrainian intelligence preparation for this strike took approximately 4 months. Satellite reconnaissance identified target aircraft locations. Human intelligence confirmed maintenance schedules. Electronic intelligence mapped air defense radar coverage. Signals intelligence tracked command and control communications. All information integrated into comprehensive target package. Mission planning identified optimal attack routes, timing, and weapon allocation. Rehearsal flights conducted to test procedures. Final authorization came from highest political level. Strike execution followed detailed plan precisely. Results exceeded even optimistic projections. Russian strategic aviation community devastated by this loss. Engels Airbase historically considered impregnable. Deep in Russian territory, heavily defended, yet Ukrainian missiles struck with impunity. This psychological impact may exceed material losses. Russian aircrews now question whether any base provides safety. Command authority in protecting critical assets eroded. Morale effects ripple through entire strategic aviation force. Ukrainian military demonstrated capability and willingness to strike anywhere in Russia. No target beyond reach if operationally necessary. This fundamentally changes Russian strategic calculations about force protection and base security. International reaction varied by political alignment. NATO members expressed support for Ukrainian right to strike legitimate military targets anywhere. Russia threatened escalation but lacks practical options for meaningful retaliation. Already conducting maximum effort against Ukraine. Cannot intensify significantly without mobilizing additional forces. That carries political risks Russian leadership unwilling to accept. Skyfront analysis indicates strike demonstrates Ukraine transition from defensive to offensive air operations. Early war period, survival. Mid-war period, resistance. Current period, strategic strike capability. This evolution reflects growing Ukrainian military capability, expanding Western support, and improving operational sophistication. Trajectory points toward continued Ukrainian deep strike operations. If you follow real air warfare developments, type Sky Front. The Engels strike represents one of multiple Ukrainian attacks on Russian strategic aviation infrastructure. Previous strikes targeted other bomber bases with varying success. This attack achieved unprecedented damage level, sets new benchmark for Ukrainian deep strike effectiveness. Russian military must now assume any airbase within 800 kilometers of Ukrainian launch positions vulnerable to similar attacks. This encompasses virtually entire southern and western military districts, forces complete reassessment of strategic bomber basing and operations. Ukrainian targeting priorities likely include remaining bomber bases: Shaykovka Airbase in Kaluga Oblast, Ukrainka Airbase in Amur Oblast, Diaghilevo Airbase in Ryazan Oblast, all house strategic bomber assets, all now potential targets. Russian air defense commands face impossible task, cannot provide comprehensive protection to all possible targets. Resources insufficient for coverage density required to defeat modern cruise missiles. This asymmetry favors Ukrainian offensive operations over Russian defensive efforts. The destroyed Tu-95MS bombers each carried approximately 8 Kh-101 cruise missiles per mission. 4 aircraft eliminated means 32 fewer missiles per sortie cycle. At typical mission frequency of 1 sortie per week per aircraft, this represents 128 fewer missiles launched quarterly. Significant reduction in Russian strike capability. Ukrainian cities and infrastructure face reduced threat. Civilian casualties decrease proportionally. This humanitarian impact matters beyond military calculations. Skyfront confirmed Ukrainian government released strike footage 36 hours after attack. Showed cruise missiles in flight and explosions at target. Thermal imaging displayed burning aircraft and secondary fires. Dramatic demonstration of Ukrainian military capability. Information warfare component of overall strategy. Video widely distributed on social media. Viewed millions of times. Demonstrates Ukrainian effectiveness to domestic and international audiences. Builds confidence in Ukrainian military competence. Reinforces Western support for continued military assistance. What happens next in the strategic bomber war? Comment below. Skyfront projects continued Ukrainian pressure on Russian strategic aviation. Additional strikes probable within 30 to 60 days. Targets selected based on intelligence about aircraft concentrations and defensive vulnerabilities. Russian response will include enhanced air defenses, aircraft dispersal, and potentially reduced operational tempo. However, fundamental vulnerabilities remain. Cannot eliminate Ukrainian strike capability without addressing root causes. Those root causes include Western missile supplies, NATO intelligence support, and Ukrainian operational expertise. None easily countered. The answer to tactical quiz: Tu-95MS production ended in 1994, option B. This makes every aircraft loss permanent. No replacement production possible. Russia operates fixed inventory that declines with each loss. Mathematics increasingly unfavorable. Current loss rate approximately 1 aircraft per month. At this pace, entire fleet eliminated within 2 years. Obviously unsustainable. Russian military must find way to protect remaining bombers or accept strategic aviation force destruction. Will strategic bomber strikes continue? Yes, but at reduced frequency and intensity. Fewer aircraft means fewer sorties. Simple arithmetic. Who controls strategic aviation superiority? Ukraine demonstrates ability to destroy Russian bombers faster than Russia can employ them effectively. This practical control matters more than theoretical capability. What happens next? More Ukrainian strikes, more Russian losses, continued degradation of Russian strategic aviation until force becomes operationally insignificant. Subscribe to Skyfront, where air wars break first.